Okay.
Yeah. All right. So let me just double check, make sure that we are live. And we are live. So
Yay.
good evening, everybody. Superbike Genius episode tonight with Richard Stanboli, the genius himself, the team boss of. Do I have to say the whole name right now? It's not the season yet, right? Attack Yamaha. I'll just call it that.
No, it's fresh and lean, progressive,
Yeah.
racing.
Presented by Attack Performance.
Yes.
All of that. Jeez. I
Rick,
guess
why
we
do
should
you have
get.
a problem with it?
I'm just saying, it's a long ass name for like such a underground like trash podcast.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, at least they're accurate in that respect.
Yeah, I mean
Your
it's
2.5 viewers.
yeah. All three of them are super stoked. Yeah. Yeah. Irate Barry is saying that the team name's at Alphabet. You know. So
No, let's not relate ourselves to Google.
anyway, all right. So we weren't, but you did.
Yeah.
All right, so the topic of discussion for tonight is the recent test day the team had last week at Buttonwillow. You brought the boys out first time in 2023, and you brought some new shit. Like you had some stuff going on.
Yeah, test almost didn't happen. It was, well, it was raining for basically 3 weeks nonstop.
Yeah,
Off and on. It rained so much here; it was so gloomy. If it rained anymore, that was like the UK.
yeah.
Yeah,
I
I,
was
we're all gonna
wondering.
stop, I thought we're all going to stop brushing our teeth at some point because it was raining so much.
You said stop brushing our teeth.
Did I insult a bunch of people?
I mean, look, I mean, you could have built a billet boat, kayak, something like that. No.
Yeah, yeah. Anyway, so we got out there. We had to delay a day just to make sure we got some dry time, and then we got out there and did our thing. And yeah, went out there and tested. We had a few items: a new swing arm, new linkage, new software that we're still working through. We're slowly adding as we go, and so it made a day and a half test pretty busy for us.
So I'm kind of doing the social media for the race team, and I did take some pictures of that stuff and post it up. And the swing arms visibly look the same. You want to talk a little bit about what you did to make them different and
Well,
how
it's
they're
hard to
different? What are,
tell. Yeah, it's hard to tell from the outside because dimensionally it looks similar. But it's kind of like looking at a MotoGP bike and you say, "Oh, those things look the same as they did last year." But the engineers are like, "What are you talking about? We spent like the last 300 hours working on this, and another 1,000 hours on that, and blah blah blah." But yeah, no, the swing arm was considerably different internally, and with the old one, you couldn't really see everything because it had pockets in it from the outside,
yeah.
and you couldn't see it because they were covered up with carbon fiber and a decal.
Okay.
So this one's a little bit different structurally, internally, and linkage pull location is different. We worked on a bunch of stuff to increase grip, and we're able to accomplish that. Unfortunately, it made the bike a little unstable over the bumps. It had so much grip that the grip and slip was the guys had to the bike accelerated so hard it was a lot of work to hold on to. So we're still working through electronics and proper shock settings to be able to take advantage of all the grip. We went back closer to what we had last year, and the bike was just the same. So we know structurally the swing arms are good, flex character is good. Just have to come up with a shock combination to take care of all that grip that we gained.
It sounds pretty strange to hear you say a rider was complaining about having too much grip.
Yeah, strange, especially with the track being so green, because
Yeah.
they were hardly using the front tire,
Yeah.
but they were accelerating harder than they were at the previous test.
Hmm.
So to make up the lap time, So I think we still got down in the low 42s. I think in the previous test we were in the 41s pretty regularly. I think Jake busted out a 40 at
Yeah.
the very, but I think 40 we were living in the low 42s is pretty easy. But this test we kind of had to work with the 42s because the track just wasn't there. It had been washed on for 3 weeks, and there was a lake in the middle of the track basically. If you ran off, you'd be in a mud hole.
You'd be swimming, basically.
There
Yeah,
was
I mean it.
a few lakes when we pulled in, like, oh, there's a lake there, there's a lake there, there's a lake there. You don't really want to run off here.
No, I told the boys first thing. I was like, look, guys, stay on the pavement this today and tomorrow because you don't want to go
Yeah.
swimming.
Yeah.
So
Plus, they were. We were on those new Dunlops, the previous test. You know, the ones that we did the the Q5 launch.
right.
We tried the new spec tires that Motor America's they're going to run in Motor America next year. Probably available to every club guy too. I know Dale Kiefer said he's waiting to get some maybe in March. And yeah, we haven't been able to test with them again. But those things were worth a pretty decent lap time. Like I bet they're worth about a second. You know,
Oh shit.
at least 3/4 of a second. You know,
Wow.
and a lot of track records are going to break next year, and mainly because of the front tire. Mainly
Hmm.
the front tire. The front tire's a lot closer to the Pirelli as far as its ability to. You can vary pressures with it, the way it held its structure, and things like that. So all the things that when we tested Pirelli fronts that everyone said was good about the Pirelli is kind of Dunlop seemed to have caught up a bit on the front tire.
I mean it. I think I commented to you on trackside when we did that test that the front looked like a Pirelli. I was like, wow, Dunlop went and made a Pirelli.
Yeah, we're Michelin. You know, MotoGP tire. They all have the kind of the same character, look, mold, spec.
Yeah.
Looks like. I couldn't tell you what the structure's like. You know, you'd have to talk to them. I know that Pirelli makes theirs out of some different material than Dunlop does for whatever reason. You know, and manufacturing capability here in the U.S. or something like that. And so yeah, so not having that front tire, it really shook their confidence a bit. I'd say they weren't really shaken, but they were pretty guarded with their approach to the corners.
Yeah.
And so I was glad to see that our acceleration was still really good, considering how green the track was, and
Yeah.
so that was a positive for the rear of the bike. Now, if we can, you know, get a decent track next go around, we can work on the front a little harder.
Yeah. Well, you guys are testing in a couple weeks again, right? Like,
Yeah, something like that.
okay. Okay.
2.5 weeks.
Yeah. So the swing arm is it's completely different. It's a little bit longer, right? Or no?
No, I mean it gives us a little more range, a little more ability
Okay.
to play around with the length because we were kind of stuck in one place last year at
Okay.
every single racetrack. So it gives us a little bit of ability to move around. And also the biggest thing was the structure and the linkage and pull rod location. They're considerably different locations. So the acceleration of the link is a little different. The forces on all the pieces are a little different. And so the shock reacts to it a little bit differently. And with that comes a little bit different range of shocks that we would have to experiment with to see what works best. So kind of got the shock out of what we would call our baseline, and so try to find a new baseline for the shock for our 23 setup, let's say. You
Right.
know,
Yeah.
for our first outing, I think it was all positives, and we may actually have to change the balance of the bike to take advantage of everything we have grip wise. You know, to give it some more stability.
Yeah. I think you were saying something that that Darren had to give the guys a little bit more power and stuff because
Yeah, so we tried a couple of things. We tried add power to try to spin past the grip, and then that didn't seem to be the trick. You know, it could just murder the tire. And then we tried to relieve the traction control and to see if we can spin past the grip. And again, it just seemed to just be more slide, more spin. So we have some things up our sleeve for the next test. So this first one was really a fact finding mission, you know. So let's
yeah.
go out, find some facts, work around what we designed, and let's go forward from there, and then see if we can improve on it. You know, we're pretty happy with what we had last year, so we know we have a really good baseline from last year as far as grip and acceleration. But you can never have too much, right? Too
Right.
much money, you're too good looking, got too much grip, all that stuff. You can have too much of.
Right. Too much hair.
Yeah, too much hair.
Yeah.
No problem here.
No problem in that team, right? Like I mean, Team Man Bun, right?
Yeah, if I had too much hair, I'd look like Canfield, all white.
Oh man. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he's the old man from Up, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Okay. So, you talked a little bit about obviously the swing arm and the linkage. What else? What else did we have to try? Because I saw that there was that handbrake thing that you were doing.
Oh yeah. So we've been trying to get Jake to shake some of his habits on the use of the foot brake. He rides on the arch of his foot, probably for motocross, instead of on his toes when he's going down a straightaway. So when he stands on the bike for a wheelie or whatever, his foot naturally goes down around the arch and he rides a rear brake. So it's kind of a natural anti-wheelie to stand on the rear brake, but he was applying so much of it that it was actually slowing the bike down. So I think we've talked about this over and over again.
Yeah.
And so we did a test. We did a couple of different tests on the dyno with the chassis. We applied like 10 newtons of 10 bar at the rear brake, then 20 bar, 30 bar, 40 bar as we powered through and it was pretty. I mean, as the pad heated up, the friction got stronger, so the amount of torque it reduced was greater. But the initial was almost 1-to-1. If you stood on it for 10 bar, you lost about 10 horsepower. If you stood
Oh, wow.
if you stood on it for 30 bar, you'd lose about 30 horsepower. So
Wow.
the first year Jake rode with us, the track speeds are always less than Cameron Bovier's. And I'm like,
Yeah.
why is he always not getting off the corner properly? And then I wasn't his crew chief at the time. I was working with Cameron. And then later on, we start looking at data in that winter test. And sure enough, he just keeps riding the rear brake on the straightaway. When everything got out of shape, he had to stay on the pegs, he'd be on the rear brake pretty hard. He wouldn't even know he was doing it. And so I told him, look, man, you're losing like 30, 40 horsepower down the straightaway. So we completely eliminated the rear brake this winter, and started using a finger brake, like a bicycle brake. And just enough to where if he got in a corner a little hot, he can lean on the rear brake a little bit and tighten that corner up a little bit. So that's all you need. Or if you run off the track for a safety thing, you don't want to have no rear brake at all.
Yeah.
Corn Dog and I argue about the rear brake all the time. I brought up, I said, F1 only has one foot pedal for the brake, and he says, but they have trim adjustments on the steering wheel. And I said, well, we have braking adjustments on our buttons too. It's called the engine brake. As F1 has electronic braking, they have the friction brakes, and then they have the engine brake. So they got the gas engine, and they have the electronic motor, and then they have the friction from the carbon brakes. And then they phase all those together, and then you get to choose a variety of, let's say, braking strategies at the wheel. So it isn't like the old school where you had a knob. You could say, oh, more rear bias or less rear bias. It doesn't work that way. It's one pedal. So we're kind of going that direction, just giving the rider a little more ability with a finger. And I think that I like it better than the thumb, because I think it gives you a little bit better feel.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. I know you and I have talked about the thumb thing, and you if I recall correctly, you shit on the thumb brake pretty good the last time we talked about it. You're like, oh, could you believe my thumb brake? Could you believe my thumb brake?
I'd like to leave that thumb open for some other stuff, in the future. So the bikes are getting so advanced, you got to use your fingers for all kinds of hit that button, hit this button, hit that button. You don't get all confused. I think if you ride a bicycle enough, the finger brake's pretty easy to get used to.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. And those guys, they're top of the line riding.
Yeah, but you'd be surprised once you get to a level where you're kind of in the zone when you're attacking those corners. You don't want to be thinking about anything. You just want to do what you're used to. So it's pretty hard to start getting used to something new. If you're out there riding and you're thinking, okay, I better apply the brake here, or I better release the brake there, then guess what? You're going to be going slow.
Yeah, I mean, it's it's like a constant thing, right? You're always trying to find that one thing, and the thing is, it's awesome that you have the data to back up everything you guys are doing, right? So
it's pretty clear.
Yeah, that didn't work, right?
Yeah, working with a few different riders and seeing data from other teams and riders, like what we've been privy to from the World Superbike guys, you can tell when things are going right and when things are not being applied properly. And then it's really hard to get guys to not do things that they normally do. So
when you're taught a certain thing and you've had it driven into your skull forever, and yeah, I'll let you take it from there, but that's pretty much both
Yeah,
the guys.
they're all creatures of habit, right? So,
Yeah,
and the habits they build up through the years, and you can tune them up a little bit, but it's hard to change everything overnight.
yeah. I mean, we got Jake's going into his 4th year on the team.
Yeah,
That's
he's
crazy.
defying my 3-year rule.
Well, I mean, he's got to stick around for a three-peat, right? I mean, that's
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what it is about these Yamahas. Like the guys when they start winning on, 'em, they just keep winning.
well,
You know,
your guys do. I mean,
well, I mean, Cameron and Josh Hayes before him.
yeah,
You know, I mean, from Matt Mladen days, it's been with the exception of a couple, I think Suzuki wins. It's been Yamaha, 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 pretty much across the board here in the States, anyway.
yeah. That's everybody seems to like all the club guys have gone to they've ditched their Cowies to BMWs, but I haven't seen a BMW up front yet. We might see it this year, Superbike. Right?
I think Cameron will probably surprise us. Bobier, that is. CB,
Yeah,
let's say, not CP.
yeah,
But I think Cam Peterson is surprised a bit too.
yeah. You keep saying that like he's gonna come out and surprise. You're saying that you might have to put a wall up in the pits, right?
No, I don't think so. They may not be as close as they think they are at the end of the season. We'll see. We can only hope, right?
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, it'll make things interesting, right?
I think so. I mean, you just have to have a fight. It doesn't matter if it's the same teammates, as long as it's a really good fight. And
Yeah. So
I think Cam Bovier is going to bring it. I haven't heard that team announced though, which is really strange.
yeah, they've been kind of sitting on that. I mean, M4 announced theirs today,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I sent Tony a message today. Said it was great to see you back in the paddock, and I'm sure he's getting a million messages now.
Yeah, I sent him
But
something similar to that.
yeah,
A little more colorful.
hopefully they work out whatever differences they had back then because he wasn't super happy with that thing at the end of that season. But maybe they've gone a different direction or they found something. But it'd be good to see him up there.
Yeah, I mean, we were just talking, some friends of mine and I, and we're just suspecting that having Tony on the grid will push another guy one more position back.
You mean that guy? The
I
H
mean,
guy,
that guy, yeah, that guy.
number two.
Wow, that's something.
You know what number two is synonymous with?
All right, so we got taking it one. Yeah, so there's a couple of questions that people.
He called me a new name, by the way.
What?
Did we get a chance to talk about it?
What did he call you?
The cheater.
The cheater thing? Did we talk about that? We haven't talked
I don't
about that
think
yet,
so
have we?
because I mean, you had that snooze fest with Chuck the other day.
Oh, god damn it! Here we go.
I mean,
Here,
what
let me go get my waders real quick.
you guys, it's like you guys take melatonin before you get on together.
I was trying to get him to take some bong rips or something so he could lighten up, man. It was like he was like a
He's
hostage,
a politician when he gets on with you.
dude.
Yes, everyone's great, and things are great, and it's all my fault. I learned from it, and who is this guy?
You know what? It's so funny that because he and another guest also were the same kind of thing. It was like they had corporate standing over their shoulder out of this camera view with a gun to his head, right? And
Dude, I treat
I
this.
was lost. Yeah, I got sucked into that. I couldn't dig my way out of it. And the whole time my wife was texting me she's like, I'm done watching this. This is boring. I'm gonna go.
I think next time he's probably going to jump on the table and start dancing naked or something. It's like,
he's gonna show us his like nipple piercings and stuff, right?
I know it was over when he started doing this. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
I got work to do.
Yeah, this little whatever you want to call this podcast thing or whatever, it's not supposed to be PC, man. It's supposed to be real and
It's
fun.
not supposed to be, cutting edge rude either. It's just two guys like
Yeah,
when we were sitting having dinner at Buttonwillow, right?
yeah,
We were talking to Will about getting on the show. Will's one of our crew guys, and he's got a shop
Yeah.
up in California, and he's a really good guy. And we're saying, dude, you just got to talk the way we would here at dinner.
yeah.
And I said, you could even mention the 4 different names I call you regularly, which I don't know what those are.
Yeah.
So apparently, I use them with four names regularly.
Yeah, I mean, there's some of the guys that are saying that that you have like the 5 stories.
I have 5 stories. I do.
it's two or three of them are army stories, right?
Yeah, I don't talk about that too much anymore. But anyway,
Yeah. But it's always fun, and I like this because you're willing to share things with people that they probably won't get from the other teams. You know what I mean?
well, I mean, I
So,
still got to be able to put it together. Like if we got Top Rack's data, for instance, we still can't do what Top Rack and their team is doing because that's Top Rack and that's that team.
right,
Even if you gave us the same motorcycles, we wouldn't be able to do what they did unless we
right.
went rode it for a year.
Or borrowed Top Rack.
Yeah. You get what I'm saying? So
Yeah,
I know we're with Kawasaki, and we used to the guy that ran the race department there used to say, if it's green, it's clean, meaning that it's okay to share info with the other Cowie guys and things like that. And I used to always come back with, well, if they can beat us with their own equipment, with their own setup, maybe we should hire their riders.
wow. I mean, that's
You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
give them a setup, and they went faster than we did, and then we're doing something wrong.
right, right. So at this test, also, you still have the fancy neutral lockout thing on one of the bikes, right?
Yeah, we're waiting on some more shift drums. We ordered, I don't know, a dozen of them or so for Chuck's team and Westby team, and then for us, and maybe for ADR because he's going to be on one of our bikes, and I think he's building one of his.
Oh, no kidding.
So yeah, he had a sponsor buy one of our bikes, Jake's, the one that he actually won the championship with last year.
Oh, wow. That's
Yeah,
cool.
so we're in the process of building a new one that we built for a World Superbike, right?
Yeah.
And so the one he finished off, Barber and New Jersey and Barber. So he bought that. We're just kind of going through it right now, making sure everything's cool, and we'll probably hand it to him next week or later this week or something.
That's interesting news. I don't think I've seen any kind of press release or anything from Aussie.
Was I not supposed to say something?
I don't know. Maybe I'll hit Aussie Dave up and have him talk about it after he rides it the first time. Is he going to come to the?
All right.
Yeah. No worries, mate. Right? Yeah.
We're relative in Australia, so you guys are just practically cousins.
No, dude. Like Aussie Dave makes fun of me so bad.
Does he? For what?
For he's like, oh, you're wannabe Australian. I'm like, bro, I have brothers.
No, I want to be Australians from New Zealand.
Oh.
It's like
Wow.
it's like when you met a Ukrainian, they used to say they're Russians all the time.
Oh man.
And now I think they're all proud to be Ukrainians because this whole war thing, right? And so, but for the longest time, if you're like, where are you from? I'm Russian. But what city? And they would, oh, Kiev or something like that. I'm like, that's Ukraine. Oh yeah, Ukraine. So it was the same thing. I used to meet people from New Zealand. They're like, I'm Australian. I'm like, where in Australia? They're like, oh, you're from New Zealand. It might have been only the few that I ran into. I can't stereotype everybody like that, but it's fun too.
I mean, there's a pretty good one. We did a track day at Thunder Hill a few years ago, and this guy was talking about Tasmania, and Jimmy, my staff dude, his sister lived in Tasmania. He's like, oh, in Tasmania, they all have 2 heads down there. And I'm like,
2 heads.
He's like, yeah, you just got to come up. Anybody that's from Tasmania, you ask them, show me your scar, mate, because there's a scar where they cut the second head off.
Oh, is that right?
I asked my brother about that, and he said, sure enough, that's a real thing. Like he said, yeah, they are a bit inbred down there.
I don't know if you ever remember Marty that was on our team, the Aussie guy.
Yeah,
He liked his beer a lot.
He liked a lot of yeah.
Yeah, a lot, maybe too much. And but I don't know what too much is. I guess all relative. But he used to talk about the Aborigines drinking gas and all the different stuff that went down there. Like wow. But I imagine the gas is mainly ethanol. I think
I have no idea, but that's awesome.
it's crazy.
All right, so I got
It's not my story.
I got a couple of comments coming in. And you know what? The first one I'm going to ask is there's a couple from August Nord. She had one on the live here, but she asked one earlier, and I thought it was kind of funny. She was asking about the if you found the secret with the Dunlops or something, and I was like, "What do you mean the quote unquote secret coating?" And she says, "No, secret, but not so secret treatment. Let's call it the necessary treatment, and you know about it."
That's pretty funny.
So what's this necessary treatment, Richard? You
I
got
don't.
Fernando in there with a paintbrush or something on him? Like
Yeah,
what?
we talked about this already. So Krupi, which was the crew chief that they sent over to look after Paducci, and did I call him Paducci? I think I did.
Yeah, you did.
Okay. I don't think Krupi will come back for Mr. H.
I don't think he's gonna watch anyway, dude. Like,
I could care less about Krupi. But
wow.
anyway, so I guess he accused us of treating our tires, or Dunlop was treating our tires,
Oh,
because Romo was working with Yamaha before years ago. Actually, he got cut loose from Yamaha because they had that that budget cut in 08, 09, when the economy went down,
yeah.
the housing crisis thing. So they started consolidating and moving crew guys out, and then doing whatever they did. Right? I think they cut the 600 team from in-house. I don't remember all the history behind it. But anyway, so Romo got cut from Yamaha as one of the crew guys that got let go, but apparently he's still a Yamaha guy, and he was giving us some special treatment, even though he was with the Ducati guys. And apparently this went down, and the tech guys were involved, and all this other nonsense. And so I went online. I started looking at tire treatments, and apparently there's like Tire Claw and a few other ones out there. I think the go-kart guys you do it, or the circle track guys
You
do it.
like the Street Outlaws pimp juice?
Yeah, they have the same tires for like all year. And they just keep coating them with this stuff,
Nice.
and it supposedly takes like a week to do a set of tires properly.
Wow.
At least a few days. You're supposed to put them in a bag and coat them on. I don't think they have any idea how many tires we go through in a weekend, like the whole allocation.
Yeah.
If we were coating each one, we'd be there for like 3 months.
Like I said, you send Fernando with the brush, he'll get it done.
Yeah, we'd have to rent another hotel room. Probably, somebody would come in thinking we're cooking some kind of meth in there or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of like the old 501 jeans, right? You just put it in the tub, right?
Yeah, that's all it is. Just
You
throw
mount
it,
them up, throw them in the tub with that shit in there, and good to go.
stuff on there, and it's like VHT. But yeah, that's what we have. We have a VHT squirter.
Okay.
Like some of that's why I'm keeping the thumb open, so you can hit the squirt button.
Okay. Like instant grip. Yeah, so I think she's fucking with us, but she's like, yeah, I'm gonna
Well,
sell that.
the
I'm gonna
Mr.
sell that secret for $1,000 a pop unless Richard reveals it.
Okay. Well, you can get on and look at Tire Claw, and see what they do for tire treatments. I don't even know if it'll work with the rubber that we use, because every kind of rubber, every polymer is a little different. So
Yeah.
whatever coating and treatment you do could turn the rubber into shit.
Yeah, 848 Evo.
If we get any oil in the tire, it really leaves like an extra soft spot that doesn't grip.
The
I just-
848 Evo says that everyone knows that you're getting the quote special tires from Jim Allen.
Jim Allen. Yeah.
Like,
Hey, Jim Allen used to do that, but it was across the board at all the top teams, which were the factory teams. They used to have the A tires. That's a fact.
Yeah.
But we're on a spec tire, and you know what? Dunlop win.
Right.
Guarantee it.
Yeah.
So would Motor
Yeah.
America. So would our fans.
Mark Price is saying that the flat track dudes use WD-40 in a plastic bag.
It's probably the same as Tire Claw,
Oh man.
because any kind of oil will get in the polymer and soften it up. But do you have any grip afterwards? That's the thing. We're always on the edge of grip and no grip and tire temperature. I mean, that stuff is like, if you look at a motorcycle tire, it's got such little tread on it that if you start coating that thing with all kinds of chemicals, man, you could have a really bad reaction. And your rider could have a bad reaction. Maybe that's what the Ducati guys were doing. And they just Couldn't figure it out because they never had any rear grip.
Oh man. Yeah, he said 848 Evo said Jim gave special DOT tires to Aaron Yates back in the day too. But I think that was like like you said, across the board for all the top teams, right?
Yeah, we didn't. I remember we got an N-Tech tire when Josh Hayes rode our bike in 2004 or five. We had those big balloon 205s that would grow
Yeah.
like crazy. You had to leave like a half inch to your swing arm, or else they would rub. Maybe
Yeah.
more. So at Road America, the thing would grow real big, and then they gave us this N-Tech, and they're like, "Here you go, try this out." And they never told us what pressures to put in it. We didn't know we're supposed to run them as low as 19 psi. So here we are out there, 528, whatever those big balloon tires took, and that thing was awful. Had no grip. This, that came in. It's like that thing's terrible. I don't know what these guys are thinking. How could they go so fast on it? And then later on, oh yeah, we're supposed to run it at 19 psi. We had no idea.
Yeah, you sent the guy on a barrel ball.
Yeah, but we never were on the A list at the time. Josh and our team were always on the B list. But even the B list was decent. But if you're on the C list, you pretty much got production tires. So, but that was the game they played back then, and it's not like that anymore. I mean, I gotta stick up for Dunlop a little bit. It's been pretty freaking fair across the board. I mean, Flinders gets the same rubber we do. We just go there, and I think they had Krupe like pick tires for us at Barber. Says, okay, go ahead and pick 3 tires you want those guys to have, or something like that. I think that's the way it went in the Dunlop truck.
Wow.
And then he goes, go ahead and mark them, and then they our wheels were there waiting to get mounted and balanced. So, and we pick up our tires and wheels that same day most of the time, that morning.
Yeah.
So you barely have enough time to heat them up.
Yeah. That
Let
makes
alone
sense.
coat them with some junk. But hey, it's nice to say there's a reason for your losses.
Well, I mean, like Tim P says, go-karts use a mixture between trans fluid and mineral spirits.
Yeah, you know what? I think the whole paddock, including every other superbike guy, should try trans fluid and mineral spirits on their tires.
Yeah, that's.
Show up with regular stuff.
There was a guy that used to.
Especially.
There was a guy. He was a suspension guy. He was a little nuts. Dwayne Jones.
I think all suspension guys are a little nuts.
Well, this guy was especially nuts. He's the kind of guy that after he did your forks, he would engrave his phone number and his name into the side of your fork tube.
Like the spider?
Well, yeah, because he wouldn't, like a sticker wasn't good enough, he had to engrave it to make sure that it was his shit in there, right?
I got it.
And he used this, I think he called it sploosh or something, but it was like Slick 50 and Prolong and... and he would put that in your forks, man. So
the Olin stuff wasn't good enough?
I guess not. But yeah, so this guy he would take old takeoffs, like the ones that are so old they have like a blue coloring on them.
Yeah.
And he would treat them with Simple Green. He would squirt them all down with Simple Green, and then he's like, "Oh yeah, it makes the oil come back to the surface."
You know how we treat our tires? With a proper application of torque and traction control and suspension settings and swing arm flex. That's the proper treatment for the rear tire.
Man. Oh man.
And then you have to have a staff that knows what they're doing and a rider that can actually apply all those things.
So do you wanna show off some of the data about the swing arm stuff?
I don't know. There's nothing really I can show you as far as.
You have like an overlay from the last time, right? And then you can see the grip or something, or.
That's a Marshall thing.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I don't want to go there quite yet.
Okay. Being coy, huh?
Yeah, a little bit on that.
Okay.
Yeah, on that part. Yeah. We spent a lot of time and personal time and money on the development of that thing.
And the rear brake stuff?
What about, like how it's being applied?
Yeah.
Yeah, I could probably come up with something that will show what we were talking about before.
Yeah.
So just give me a sec. I'll have to find something from last year, let's say.
And while you're looking, I'm going to tell you that some of the commentary that we got on the Instagram, There was a couple of welder guys that were kind of shitting on the welds that you had on the swing arm.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, Nigel Carson, and Scott Ramey.
Yeah, I don't know who they are.
You
Are
know,
they?
Blair Ramey, right?
Yeah. I don't know. Guy's an
Yeah.
idiot.
So let's see.
Blair's an idiot too.
Yeah,
But anyway.
Nigel says, "Do
So,
they need a better welder? Because I know a guy." And then, you need a new welder. Scott says, I can do the same thing in my sleep." I'm like,
yeah.
I don't
Well,
think these guys understand that there's more than just welding happening on over there.
yeah. Yeah. I could go through a lot of reasons and the differences in alloys and the variable thickness and all the different parts that we have and how difficult that stuff is to bond. But I don't want to waste my time with it
Wow.
because there's always those guys who are so mentally weak that they got to poo-poo other people's work because they have no life. They might have skills, welding skills, but they have no life. They don't run a team. They don't win championships. They don't, who knows what they do. But if that's all they have time to do is look at other people's stuff and bag on it, then good on them. That's the power of the internet.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just gonna I'll share my screen really quick, just to kind of show like what we're talking about here.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, I mean, like this is the screen here, and
Yeah.
you can see. I mean, it looks awesome, and this was actually before the thing went out for the first time. So
Yeah.
that's kind of where we're at with that.
Well, like I said, there's always someone that can bag on something for some reason or another. What I
Mark,
say is,
Mark-
hey, you know what? Why don't you design your own swing arm, design your own superbike, design your own MotoGP bike, and come out and race with us? I'd welcome it. And I
Yeah.
won't bag on you for trying.
Well, Mark Gagne says don't give the snivellers any ammo.
Oh, I'm not giving them any ammo. I mean, they're just snivellers or whatever the hell they are.
Oh, I love Mark.
They don't even know the thicknesses of that stuff. They don't even know what kind of alloy it's made out of. When you can take a picture of your perfect weld that you've practiced forever, like a production line, then have at it. And yes, we did do it in our sleep, by the way.
And Irate Barry says he feels that you literally just described the entire snowmobile community.
Yeah, pretty much.
Wow. Okay. So give me an idea of what. I mean, I know it was a lot of work. It was massive work, but like, give me an idea of like what the machine time was on something like that. Like, how long does it take to make one of those things?
All right, let me go back to this because I was looking at data. Let me see here. Some of the parts ran overnight.
Okay.
So they would probably run part of the night because we'd want to type the machines for normal production.
Yeah.
Because our machines are basically running every single day.
Yeah.
So once we had the thing proofed, then just hit the button and walk away and let it run. Especially on the 3D moves, they don't make a lot of chips. So they'd go back and forth. Some of the stuff is thin, like really thin. So fixturing it and figuring out how to fixture it so you have no chatter is pretty key, especially when you have a large span between like the top and the bottom of the swing arm.
Yeah.
You have a pretty open cavity in there. It's pretty tricky. It takes quite a bit of work and being able to make sure your feeds and speeds and how your fixturing is and there was some tricky stuff we did with fixturing it that we're able to get a nice finish on the outside of it and hold tolerances. So that's where I'll give you a little bit of a clue. It's the swing arm internally is variable thickness throughout. So we spent a lot of time, not so much on the looky part of making that dime overlap the other dime, like stacking dimes on a weld. It was more about what the internal structures are like.
Oh.
And so we spent a lot of time on that and doing some FEA stuff with that. And from what we learned from 2020 when we had the World Superbike stuff to test, and then our other 3 generations of swing arm and going on to the 5th generation now. And we had 2 different versions, by the way, which you may not have known. The one I think you got a picture of, I didn't see it because I was looking for data. But the one you got a picture of, that was the 4th generation, and then Jake was on the 5th generation.
Oh, I didn't know you had two different ones that you guys were
Yeah, I
testing.
want to get the feedback from both guys, and we may swap next time. But
Okay.
then we have some other, so we have another couple waiting to assemble based on what we learned from those two guys. So we have another test we're going to do and try some more settings. And there's definitely options. We can put a different inner skin in it to change the rigidity of it versus what we have on the outside. So there's quite a bit of stuff going on in those things, and it's really important because that's what drives a motorcycle.
Okay, so this has led to a few more comments.
Yeah.
Obviously, Mark Gagne is like, yeah, probably 300 hours.
It was a lot. I mean, I didn't really count because I don't want to cry over how much machine time we're spending, but it was a
Yeah.
lot. Like, it took a good week to machine all the bits and pieces for a few swing arms.
And you guys are rocking the Haas machines, right?
Yeah, we have a couple of Haas's, and we're yeah, then we have a Roku and some other stuff, but yeah, the Haas is what made that machine, made that part.
And Tim
And
P
it's
says he
really
comes
good.
from a machinist background, and he
What's
wants to
that?
know if you do all your own programs or do you use Mastercam?
I hate Mastercam.
Okay.
It's so old school, Mastercam. There's so much better stuff out there now. But Mastercam is really antiquated. They keep tuning up basically an old hot rod from the 80s, I guess. It's my opinion of Mastercam. I just hate using it. But we have used Mastercam in the past. I don't use it anymore.
There you go. All right, and then the A48 Evo dude is asking if you were to put a price on that swing arm, what would it be? And then just to follow up with that, Knutson says $1 million.
No, I mean, lucky for us, there's no. I don't think we have a price cap on the swing arms. But in World Superbike they do. I think it's. I thought it was 10,000 euro for the swing arm. I think it was 10,000. Might have been 8,000. Electronics are 8,000. Swing arm might have
Yeah.
been 10. So it would be all of that, and then you have to buy all the bits and pieces. So nothing on that swing arm and rear section will fit anything else that you have stock. In other words, the wheel, the offset, the sprocket carriers inboard, the front sprockets offset in, everything is kind of a tight package, and it has a lot to do with a flex character when you're on the edge of the tire. So one of the first comments we had as soon as they rolled out was like, "Man, this thing really feels like it wants to accelerate." And how is it on the edge of the tire? Edge of the tire is really good. And how is it through the S's? It turns great. Just a little bit unstable over the bumps coming out of some of the harder acceleration bumpy turns, which was turn two, right? We call it.
Yeah.
I don't know what you call that
Yeah,
thing.
the off ramp.
Is that off ramp? I don't
Yep.
know. Put numbers on that on those stupid corners. No numbers.
Yeah,
We
no,
call it turn two.
yeah, turn two, and you probably sunset corner, right?
What's sunset corner?
The one that goes on the front straight.
Oh, so the last corner?
Yeah, the last corner that has a huge bump in it.
Yeah, so those two corners, that what the bike would do is it would accelerate so hard that it wanted to open the swing arm, meaning extend the swing arm open, try to get towards the top out of the shock. This is the area we're going to work on, the top part of the travel, and then it would spin over the bump, probably because the track didn't offer much grip anyway. So when you got off the edge of the tire and started spinning the tire, as it would spin off the bump, it would slide and then hook when it got into the stroke a little bit. And so that would just make the thing a little bit unsettling when you're trying to point the bike in a certain direction. You're trying to hit that exit within an inch or two, using all the track. So that's something that we're going to work on, and John and I powwowed over it after the test, and so we have some solutions we're going to try for next time.
So there's some other comments that came on before we went live.
Yeah.
Matt Knutson again. He comments on multiple platforms. Good on you, man. He says he previously asked the question about using a thumb brake similar to the World Superbike teams, and your response was, "Let's get the riders to figure out how to use the front brake efficiently before we introduce another thing that they have to figure out." And he says,
Yeah.
"Glad to see the boys figured out the front brake so you could experiment."
Yeah, pretty much. Well, I mean, last year we were limiting the pressure in the rear brake to about 5 bar because we knew he was going to stand on it no matter what going down the straightaway.
Yeah.
And so we figured, oh, we can give up 5 horsepower, without, and our trap speeds came up, when we started putting that limiter in there, our trap speeds came up. It's just fact. Jake's trap speed was one of the highest always, the Ducati and Jake were pretty much the top. And then Cameron Peterson, right? And I think every now and then the Westby guys would be up there.
Yeah.
But for the most part, it was Jake and the guys were going relatively the fastest, had the highest trap speeds, and that was normal, where it wasn't before. And but it became difficult to just limit that thing to a certain amount of pressure all the time. So we just came up with a different solution to fix it, reacquaint him with braking again, and start using it. So we'll spend the next 4 tests. We have 4 more tests before the first national, and getting used to that. And we're just going to put it across the board on all the bikes. Cameron Peterson, he hardly ever uses the rear brake.
Really?
He doesn't hardly touch it at all. Where he rides motocross and does it well, but he switches back and forth and doesn't really slow the bike down in certain areas where it's not necessary. So he rides he does ride on his toes when he's on a road racer, as far as I can tell. And so he hasn't been as critical on the rear brake usage. Love to use the rear brake in a proper way, like at the apex or near the apex or before the apex, to help pull the bike in. And some corners where, let's say we end up going with an aftermarket transmission next year, a different transmission, since the transmission rules are open, and our first gear is a little tall and we can't develop enough engine braking. Well, it'd be nice to have that rear brake to help you to that apex. But that'd probably be about the only place we ever use it, because if you're using the front brake hard enough, the rear tire's pretty much got no grip. It's off the ground. So you can use it a little bit before you apply the front brake. In MotoGP, people say, oh, well, they use it in MotoGP, but people got to remember that MotoGP engine's got a lot of anti-friction work done to it. So it's a pretty free friction engine, right? So they spend a lot of time making horsepower and higher RPM by removing friction from the engine. So these street engines, they produce a lot more friction. So you shut the throttle off and they come to a stop. There's plenty of engine braking to do everything we want to do.
Yeah.
Plenty. And we can control a lot better than the rider can. Because the ECU doesn't lie. He's doing math at a tremendous speed and it knows what's happening. Rider's got a lot of stuff going on. He's trying to find a passing location. He's trying to get his rhythm. He's got a lot of stuff going on. And so why introduce a variable?
Right.
When you can just take that out of his hands and let it. I mean, look at modern airplanes, right?
Yeah.
You're not going to be flying with pulleys and cables anymore. You got a computer controlling thing. Thrust vectoring and all that stuff. This is the way bikes are getting. It's getting more and more and more complicated. The speed's a lot faster. And the only way that could happen is if you give the rider some help.
Yeah, I mean, we ditched the flat slides for a reason, right?
Yeah, the cable throttle's gone.
Yes, it is. I don't miss it. Okay, Steven Eisenhower, his comment, just so you know, is seems like he had a misunderstanding of what was said on this podcast before, but he says it's kind of funny that RS doesn't like carbs on motorcycles and wants to be at the forefront of technology, but hates rear brakes being used. It's kind of hypocritical there. But then again, I'm all about the rider being in complete control of a race bike, and RS is the complete opposite. I have to say, his approach seems to be winning so far.
So he said that using the rear brake is technological. If you go away from the rear brake use on straightaways and places where you shouldn't, that slows the bike down. That's being not technical.
Like I said, I think he was misunderstanding what we were talking about. But
yeah, I think I am pro technology. I am pro going forward, and I think it just does better for safety and competitiveness. And if you think about where bikes have come from, it used to be that you had to be pretty talented to be able to ride a 200 horsepower bike, 220 horsepower bike without any traction control on those old tires we used to have. and all the wheeling and all that stuff. And some guys were just able to do it better than others. Now you've taken a lot of that hard stuff off the table, right? And now you can
Yeah.
just concentrate on your lines, and you can open the throttle and concentrate on getting the throttle quickly. You know, the proper application of the front brake and the proper way, leaned over. You know, all those things you can concentrate on. It's still a very technical sport, and you're still leaving a lot up to the rider. It's just different.
Hmm. So
You
I'm
know,
looking at.
Igor said it when he rode our bike, right? He said,
Yeah.
"Wow, this bike." He said the bike is so mentally easy to ride. Like you're not concentrating on not killing yourself with all that power. It's so easy to ride that you could ride it really hard. That was coming from his mouth.
Yeah.
And meaning that you have to be really physically fit to be able to ride that hard for the whole race.
Yeah. I mean, I
And
told
handle
you.
the bike, and it's not going to throw you on the ground.
I told you riding the bike, I felt like a fat slug riding it.
Kind of looked like a fat slug, right?
Yeah, appreciate that, Dick. Yeah. Okay. So here's some more comments coming in. There's a few guys apparently talking about the software that for your machine stuff. SolidWorks, Top
Yeah.
Solid, and Pro E.
Yeah, yeah. I like the Autodesk products.
Okay.
They're really user friendly, and they do what you need, and they have a few different features, and you can do a lot of stuff with Autodesk stuff. I've always been an Autodesk guy since college days, so I kind of went that way. That's why
Okay.
Mastercam is so irritating.
And then Tom Levon, sorry if I didn't pronounce that correctly. Are y'all doing any all the carbon fiber and composites work in house as well?
No, we don't do the carbon here. There's no
Okay.
time. Just
Yeah.
one more thing we could do, we do the CNC work, anything CNC machine, 3D printing we do here. Just no carbon stuff. We'll farm it out. So about
Carbon
the whole
and
thing we do.
carbon and bodywork, right?
The bodywork's carbon. And we used to make our own bodywork. We used to do all the molds here, then we'd ship them out and have them, pump out parts. But it's just a whole nother project you got to get your hands in, and at some point you got to focus.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So, and then 848's got a couple more. 848 Evo. He's got a couple more questions. He said, "Is it mostly true to say the chain side is stiffer to keep the wheel in line for drive, and the brake side is generally where you work with your flex?"
That's correct. Yep.
Somebody's taking notes.
Smart guy. It depends on the manufacturer. When Eskil Suter was here at the shop, we're chatting, and he saw our swing arm. He goes, "You make these?" I go, "Yeah, we make our swing arms in house." I mean, we're sponsored by Suter. We can get a Suter swing arm, but it's just way more fun when you do your own stuff. And so there's nothing wrong with the Suter stuff. It works great. They're more about symmetry. I think they're the same dimensionally on both sides. Maybe they're different now, but I did see some PDF of theirs. It looked like they added a little more lateral flex on the thing, or y-axis flex, I guess, when you're leaned over. And so yes, ours is like that, and the World Superbike stuff's like that too. The left side is the zero side, just like when you bolt in your engine, right? It screws over the left. So the left side of the bike's a zero. And same with the wheel, it screws over the left. So the left side is the rigid side, or more rigid side, and the right side is like a noodle, moves around. You pop the axle open, thing swings open, get your wheel in. You practically flex it back and forth by hand.
Wow.
But it has stiffness up and down. Otherwise, the bike would bump steer, right? It would twist, and then it has stiffness driving forward. It just has flex when it's leaned over.
That's
And
really,
they try to accomplish the same kind of stuff with a frame. I think BMW tries to do that.
yeah.
But one thing that was interesting about finding all that, or say planning all that grip out, and then still not having the ability to take control of it. I can see where BMW and some of these other manufacturers have gone down that rabbit hole, and they spend a season trying to make the bike better for the guys to ride.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I can see how that could be really easy. Go if they didn't have something else they could compare to that worked really good, and they're like, man, we just can't get this thing to go forward, and the riders are frustrated. I could see that with our riders, and we were just trying to beat that thing down before we. Okay, the final step was to go ahead and put the thing closer to 2022 setup, and go, okay, did we accomplish what we wanted to accomplish, and are we that far off the mark or not? And so yeah, we're right back to the lap time and feel that we had in 2022 with a little more range of adjustment and other features that we can expand on.
Okay. Now I have another the next comment is actually from somebody who I did the podcast last night with, Brandy Cox, and you had a funny question for her. You had a couple of funny questions for her, but
was this the girl that races with you guys?
Yeah, she's a vet in Texas, and
oh yeah, I remember my question. I said she's a vet in Texas. Does she
give cows enema?
She built the inside of a cow before.
Well,
I've seen it on TV before.
she did have an answer for that, but
yes.
and I was like, oh, so you have the whole glove up to here and everything, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So she talked about the procedure for that, and she during the show last night, it was pretty funny. She was like, yeah, just let Richard know that I'm gonna get that changed in the textbook to the Stanboli procedure.
Oh no, I've only seen it once on TV. I know nothing about it.
Yeah, but her
Is that person sticking their arm up that cow's butt?
Yeah. So she says that what product do you use to keep your amazing scalp in such great condition?
Who's that? Me?
Yeah.
Or you?
You. I mean, probably
razor
both
blade,
of us.
man.
You got the same haircut, dude. Like,
yeah, razor blade.
That's what I'm saying.
Exfoliation with a razor blade.
I know that Mark recommended this like battery thing, and
yeah, I've used it.
Yeah, I've used it too. It just doesn't get as close as the.
Yeah, I like the razor blade.
Yeah, I'm like old school.
I've never been electric razor guy. That device works pretty good. Like if you're on the road, but it's nothing better than a straight razor.
Yeah, so Mark says olive oil.
Olive oil.
Yeah, I just slapped. I got olive oil in my shower. I just shoot.
That's great. Were you a Seinfeld watcher?
I was not. Okay,
all right.
I've seen it a couple of times, but.
And then this one will fall flat. But it was the one character on Seinfeld. I can't remember his name, but he was the short bald guy. And
Newman? Was it Newman?
No, Newman was the other guy. Newman was the mailman.
Oh yeah, see, like I barely watched that show.
Yeah, I can't remember what his name was. Such a long time ago, but I just remember one episode where Seinfeld walks in and there's this girl rubbing olive oil on the guy's head. He's bald, like a short bald guy.
Wow.
They're like, oops.
Wow. Yeah, Yamalube. That's
yeah, we use Yamalube.
Yeah, Yamalube.
030.
You said 030? Wow. Okay. So
0 to 60.
So August Nord wants to know if you're taking the Daytona 200 seriously, as in it's important for the attack team since it's 600. Would you like the 200 to switch back to thousands?
I don't know if it's possible anymore because the speeds were so high. I mean, I've talked to the last guys that rode those things on thousands, like Josh Hayes and Jake Zemke. I think Jake Zemke won. He did win one there. And one or two, I can't remember if they were double headers back then. There were Superbike races. They tried all kinds of stuff to keep the heat down in that tire, but the Superbike just generates so much heat so fast. I don't know if they can make a tire for it. Maybe they can. It'd be like a truck tire. I don't know. Daytona is just a special racetrack, And the only thing I like about it, is the team action. Like you have as a team the ability to strategize and adjust the outcome by what happens with the decisions you make in the pits. Even though it's only 2 tire stops, you can call when the tire stops happen. You can switch a front tire, not switch a front tire, change a compound if you have that option. So there's certain things you can do working with a rider. Whereas In a sprint race, you basically do what you can through all the practice and qualifying, and then you pat the dude on the butt and go, here you go. It's up to you now. Have at
Yeah.
it. Yeah, so
Yeah. I
kind
mean,
of involved. I remember talking to Jim Allen once, and he said the best part of Daytona is when the landing gear comes up.
leaving.
Yeah,
But you know what? You do take it seriously, though. I
yeah,
mean,
we take every kind of sport seriously,
well,
really.
we're also, but you're also, yeah. My wife's texting me, and she's saying it's George Costanza.
George Costanza, yeah. So
There
she
you go.
watched Seinfeld. I'm just terrible with the names of all these different characters.
Yeah. So, but
But
yeah,
we used to celebrate, Festivus, right? The Festivus tree,
yeah,
the
yeah.
blank pole. We used to go
We
do the
didn't get,
go-kart thing, and
we didn't go to our Festivus go kart racing in a while.
we
Yeah,
need to. Everybody keeps jamming for Christmas. And we used to do it
yeah,
like a couple weeks before Christmas, right? We used to have
yeah,
what we would do, in case people don't know the ritual, we would go and Lucille's or something was right next to K1. We'd rent the K1 thing and we'd do practice qualifying. But before we went there, we would eat all kinds of barbecue and drink beer. Of course, you wouldn't. You'd
yeah.
eat like chicken,
I'm a quitter.
chicken and iced tea, or salad.
Yeah,
Anyway, we'd eat barbecue till we're stuffed. Go drink big mugs of beer, and then we'd go race the go karts, and then we'd have a podium celebration afterwards. It was fun.
it was fun. I mean, the thing is, like this team does. I mean, fun is a part of the equation for sure. I mean,
That
a
is,
lot of work, but you guys. I mean, this team. I say you guys. I'm kind of on the team sometimes too, but like, it's a good time, man. It's. I don't know.
my equation for having a good team has always been that way, and I'm not going to tell any military stories, but it's always been that way. That if you have a team of guys that really gel together, it's more important to have that than it is to have 100% competence,
Hmm.
like knowledge, because you can always teach that to somebody, right? You can teach the skills. You can teach someone how to tighten a wheel properly, or do whatever, swap an engine properly, or whatever. Even the data guy. I work with Marshall from the minute he worked on our team, and we've been developing, and he develops his skills. He helps me with my skills, and we keep. Really important is we all get along really good.
Yeah.
We can all go to dinner, have a good time, tell stories. Those 5 stories I have. I'll tell those
Yeah.
stories
All
over and
five.
over again. They might go down to 2 stories as I get older because I'll probably forget the other 3.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I mean, but to answer the question, you are taking the 200 serious, but at the same time having fun with it. I mean, I've been working on the shirts already, right? We'll probably sell
Yeah.
those, right? They're a little bit different than
We
the
don't want
ones
to give away the punchline on the shirts.
not giving away the punchline, but
Mm-mm.
I mean, we're going back this year, but with one rider this time, right?
One
So
rider, yeah. Yeah, Jake wants to just concentrate on the 200. Last year he didn't have such a great time. His style, his I know he was a 600 racer before, but his style has morphed into superbike. All the acceleration and the tires spinning and the traction control and the wheeling and all that stuff and the movement. And he got on a 600 and he's like, "What is this thing?" And
yeah,
I've seen that before. Like Matt Mladen was didn't really get along with super sport when he tried to do it, and went back to superbike, still smashed everyone. So Jake's gonna concentrate on that, and Cam Peterson really enjoyed it, and we had fun with it. We missed out by 7 thousandths of a second, so we'll see if we can rectify that.
yeah. I mean, he's hungry. He was talking about it at the test. Even he's like, yeah, I definitely got to get that back. He's like wants to get revenge or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
So
And
he wants payback.
Jake will concentrate on superbike, and he'll do a good job with that. And 4th year with the team, which is amazing. It's gone by that fast.
Yeah, I can't even believe it now that I'm thinking about it. It's
It
like,
seems
man,
like yesterday we were doing the first test with Cambobier.
right. Okay, so Johnny Simroska, he wants to know if you would be opposed to doing a shop tour and customer builds in progress, etc., like showing all they offer in house and more into the weeds of his business, showing the cool bikes in the shop.
Like via camera?
I guess, yeah, you'd be like,
Yeah, we used to do the open house things. Just we've been so busy.
Yeah.
It's really hard to do that because we're just everything's. I mean, you have to basically set that up. Like you want to do it by. It's not like those shows you see on TV where all that stuff's choreographed.
You don't want to be Richard Rollins or whatever, one of those TV
I
shows.
don't know. I mean, you see those shows on TV, where it looks like reality TV, but it's like, okay, let's do that again. Let's do that again. Okay, you pick up that tool and you throw it across the room. You know, pretend you're pissed off. March out of his office. All that stuff. You're like, okay, this is so fake. But we have stuff apart all the time, and stuff doesn't matter. I mean, it would take like a week. Oh, a bike build to show a bike build, let's say.
Hmm.
And you'd have to do it in segments. I guess we can plan something like that out. We'd have to think about it.
Yeah. Maybe another open house, even.
Yeah, I mean, we used to do the open house things. Those were always a good time. People came
Yeah.
for free pizza,
Everybody came for free pizza and dyno pools.
dyno pulls, right? Free dyno runs and pizza.
Yeah.
Who
Woo.
wants to come to that?
Yeah.
The neighbors hated us.
Yeah. Well, fuck them.
Yeah, pretty much. They still hate us so for it.
Well, yeah. Okay. So, Chloe, the data wizard kid that I introduced you to a couple years ago,
Yeah, yeah.
um, she wants to know if you guys are planning to run the Loudon Classic.
No.
Okay. That was a hard no.
With their, it's too close to what other stuff we're doing, and what was it, 600 race, something like that?
I have no idea.
I,
I hear there's a lot of money involved. That's
that
it.
lot of money doesn't translate to a lot of money for us.
Okay.
Because by the time we spend to take a semi up there and pay a crew, our crew all make money. They don't work for free, which there's nothing against people donating their time and working through the process of learning how to go racing. I mean, I did plenty of free work. I probably still do, if you count all the hours. So, but our mechanics are professionals and they earn a salary. And by the time you pay that, you pay their hotel rooms, you pay for their flights, and then you pay for the rubber or whatever, and you pay for the bike builds, and then you pay for all the shop time. That lot of money turns into no money. And it's a huge distraction over the main mission, which Yamaha wants us to win Superbike races.
There you go.
You
That
know,
makes sense.
the 600 race is kind of a cool race, at Daytona.
Yeah.
And we had to ask permission last year, and they were okay with it. And so, again, we're doing that this year, and with one rider. And, it's just a fun thing to do. The Loudon Classic, I think it's just going to be too much of a burden for us. It really should be available. That money should be available for other people to win. Don't you hate it when some ringer shows up to a club race and smashes everyone, takes all their money and leaves?
I don't. I think it's rad to have him there, but
Remember
I hear that in the paddock.
Remember we showed up with Steve Rapp at Buttonwillow? Chuck Walla?
Yeah.
And he won everything, and people are protesting us and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. What are you gonna do? There's
Yeah,
always
he
that
started
guy.
like dead last. He won by a mile. So let those guys do what they do, and we'll do what we do.
Yeah, Steve Rapp was kind of the exception to this rule, but when you would come out, a lot of times when you guys would come out and race a club race, you would literally you just use it for test time, and then you guys
Yeah.
would pull off on the last lap. But Steve Rapp was a little special there. He was like, "Fuck that, that's my money."
He didn't want to pull off.
He's like, "I'm not pulling shit off."
He's a really nice guy. He's
Super nice guy.
Yeah, he's just competitive.
Wow, man. Okay, so just heads up. Got a couple comments from Ricky Bobby. Apparently, he bought some rear sets from some of your rear sets through me, and he's stoked to have them. He's got a Triumph 675 project that he's been doing on YouTube. So,
Cool.
yeah, I guess
Yeah,
he's gonna race the thing. I actually talked him out of the black rear sets, and I scumbagged him into going aero hard.
Aero hard stuff, yeah.
Yeah, and I basically scumbagged him the same way you did me. You're like, oh, the black just looks so pedestrian, man. You lose it in the black of the frame, and
Yeah, if your bike's all black and you put more black on it, you don't really notice all the accents and details,
yeah,
Some people like that look. I'm just not partial to it. fully black motorcycle with all black parts. Eh,
Yeah, he says being a Boeing guy, the Arrow Hard looks cool. So
he's a
um,
Boeing guy.
apparently he was. Yeah.
That's the natural color of that alloy when you hard anodize it.
Oh, okay.
That's why it's that color.
Oh, and then August Nord. Actually, this is funny because you mentioned something similar to this before, by another writer. But she's like, "Hey, if you need somebody to replace Jake on the other 600, I'm, like she's signing up." So,
We sold one of our Daytona bikes from last year, so all we have is two, one in a spare, and there's just no time to build another one. We're too deep into superbike development. If you think about it, the R1 came out what in 2015.
yeah,
It's basically the same motorcycle, same engine with some minor changes. They made an upgrade 20 with the throttle bodies and a few other things, but basically it's the same bike. So we have to keep working to keep up. Like make sure we're competitive every single year. So it isn't like we sit on our hands and go, oh, our riders will do the trick. We have to work. I mean, you got has a new bike. Apparently, they're working pretty hard in World Superbike, and you got Cam Bobier riding it. I think we're gonna have our hands full there. And Tony Elias come back. If he finds a rhythm there, the dude's fast. He starts training again, finds a rhythm. Sometimes a little time off makes you hungry again. And you ride the wheels off something.
yeah. I mean, it sounds like having those guys back on the grid will push the riders forward like it did before.
Yeah.
Or like it's done before, and then because of that, it's going to make you work harder to make the bikes better.
And I know Chuck at Westby. I mean, he's working hard, and they're gonna be testing with us. And I guarantee when he's not on your show, the guy is working hard.
Oh yeah, I mean,
He's
wow.
not sleeping.
And you know what's fucked up is he probably watches this. He's gonna think that we're poking him like in a bad
Whatever.
way.
I give him a hard time all the time. Gives me a hard time.
Yeah,
He sends me a picture of his middle finger all the time, and I
dude,
delete
he
it.
was just Chuck was just like I said, he looked like he was behaving like a kidnapping victim or something. Like he was being held hostage.
Yeah, well, no, it was like Yamaha corporate is going to replay his whole thing, and they call him in the office or something.
Right, right.
It's better to ask for forgiveness, is what I always say.
Yeah, like I mean, I had a meeting with a guy at Yamaha in Georgia recently, and
Yeah,
dude, they've been watching this thing, and they're like, yeah, dude, it's fun. You could say shit that we can't.
yeah. They can always say, "Oh, that Stanboli, he's off his rocker again."
I
Uh,
think winning has a way of helping through some of that stuff for you.
maybe. I mean, we live in a pretty corporate environment. I mean, PC environment. So
Yeah,
there's stuff we can get away with. I can get away with because it's my shop, my business.
right,
So who's gonna fire me? Only thing can happen is people go, "That guy's an idiot. I don't want to buy his stuff anymore."
right, right.
So I'm not going to get called into somebody's office, but I could. There's certain rules of conduct that we have to keep when we're racing
Oh,
superbikes.
for sure.
But when we went to that Wall of Champions thing, it was a lot of fun. Hung out with a lot of the guys from Yamaha, and there was one guy, I think. I don't know if we talked about this, but I'm going to have to ask Martinez to fire him because he was handling shots like crazy. Like I don't drink tequila, and he was giving me tequila, and man, the next day I wasn't feeling all that great. Thanks a lot, whoever you were. I forgot his name.
Wow, that's yeah. You did say it got a little out of hand for you.
It was okay. It was a really good time. We all kind
Yeah,
of sat, and there was a few guys that really dug what we talked about and asked a lot of questions. They like the technical parts of what we talk about. They asked a lot of questions about suspension and forks and rear and this and that because they're all enthusiasts. They ride,
yeah,
track days, things like that, and some club race. So it was a
yeah.
good time.
So did you successfully find some of that data that we were talking about earlier? You want to share? Or?
Oh yeah, rear brake usage. That's kind of boring.
Yeah, okay. We could skip it.
But yeah, all it show. I mean, I'm telling you what it shows. It shows the guy riding the rear brake whenever the thing wheelies or whatever it does, or excess use of it, and you can see some of the deceleration in the bike and things like that. So that's all past news, old history. You know,
Have you
I have no problem with him using it in the appropriate spots. That's for damn sure.
do you have like a new spec engine that you've been working on as well?
You know, the engine's pretty good. Um, we just keep improving the fuel management side of it and how we apply the torque. You know, so we're trying to get to the if you I don't know if you listen to our bike. You were up in the tower, right?
Yeah.
Did you hear it around the racetrack?
Oh yeah. 100%.
So we started applying this new strategy that Yamaha has, which I think the Japanese were doing it a couple years back with the World Superbike team, but they started applying it to the normal expert level and satellite level software, which is it's called TRM, throttle management. It's another strategy, and it's not just torque control, but it's the throttle reacting like a MotoGP bike to spin, wheelie, all these different things, and it did have an effect of calming the bike down with all those cuts. So before on our bike, which Josh Hayes commented on also when he rode it that one time, Pridmore, Hayes, and Jake, three attack champions rode
Yeah.
our bikes, and Hayes commented that when he was picking the throttle up, if he wasn't really aggressive with it, that the traction control was so strong that it would shake the chassis. Which is kind of what the whole stop and start of the tire was something that they started doing with cars way back when they started doing traction control, try to save the tire, like let it coast between the hits,
Yeah.
try to get grip. So, but that has an effect when you have a swing arm and a chain and all those things, or it's almost like a jackhammer, right? So it shakes the chassis, and then it could potentially tuck the front tire, But Jake was so good at just snapping the thing up and going to full throttle. But with the TRM, that smoothed a lot of that stuff out, and you could audibly hear less cut around the racetrack. So that's some of the stuff that we've been working on, trying to apply, back to that same question about the engine, trying to apply the proper amount of torque, because we have so much of it, you can't even use it. If you listen to our bike, it's like it's cutting all around the racetrack. There's only a few places where the thing's open.
Yeah, the car guys are all talking about that. They're like, man, that thing's cutting power down the straight. It's cutting power everywhere.
Yeah, well, down the straights is trying to wheelie. Accelerating off every corner is trying to spin the tires, trying to high side the guy. And we're just always playing around with how much cut do we have, how much mechanical grip can we give the bike, and how fast we make it accelerate. And that's why when you have a closed system like traction control reacts on how much spin, how fast the spin is, those kinds of things, different lean angles. So then we start working with swing arm length, swing arm flex, linkage, rising rate, damping, spring rates, wheel rates. You start working with all that stuff, trying to close the circle, trying to get the most amount of acceleration. Now the bike goes, oh, you're not spinning as much, so I'm going to apply more gas, more throttle. And then that's when you get this big, oh, I'm really accelerating, but when it does slip, it slips, not as comfortably as I would like, not as smooth as I would like. So you have to go back and work on that. And sometimes that takes time, not just 20 laps on a semi-crappy day at the racetrack. You need to have, it started drizzling the second day, we had to hold off an hour. So we went from, oh, the track's getting better to, oh, the track's shit again.
Right.
But those guys are getting hammered. California got hammered for pretty much 3 weeks, right?
Yeah.
Every other day it was raining, and raining quite a bit.
Yeah, we planned to do the test, and you sent me a text. You're like, yeah, I'm pushing the test one extra day. I'm like, okay. And so,
yeah.
We went out there.
It was just showing that Tuesday was just going to be wet, like half the day. And every time we looked, the long forecast, that Tuesday's going to be wet, Tuesday's going to be wet, Tuesday's going to be wet. And then we got there, Tuesday was still drying up, right? The track was still pretty much lakes.
Yeah.
And then it started showing, oh, Thursday's going to have a little rain overnight. Then it became, oh, Thursday's going to have a little drizzle in the day. And then a little bit of rain came midday, so we had to stop.
Yeah.
And then there was the chick with the Ferrari.
Yeah, let's talk about that. That's not
that
something.
Show, Crazy Rich Asians. Is that the name of the show?
Let me text my wife real quick. I have no idea.
But apparently it was an Asian woman that was driving a Ferrari, and she decided to park it upside down and backwards on the racetrack.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying that Asians are bad at parking, but she shouldn't have parked that thing upside down and backwards.
Yeah, Mikey Buttonwillow did have to bring. I heard him call for the tow truck, and he said, "We need Mater out here." What? It's an old square body Chevy tow truck.
Yeah, I was wondering, I go, how do they get the cars off the racetrack on a test day like that when they don't have a
Yeah.
full event? I guess
Yeah.
they flipped it over by the roll bar, right?
Well, it was weird. They used a bunch of straps, and they basically he anchored the thing with the tow truck, and then pulled the other side
Over.
over with his side by side thing, and
Oh,
then
really? Just two
gradually,
vehicles.
yeah, they and gradually let the cable down so it wouldn't slam,
Yeah.
and then he hooked onto the little tow hook on the front and dragged it out.
I saw the pictures, you could see the skid marks across the tires when it was upside down.
Yeah.
You got a pretty good view of a Ferrari underside with all the little diverters and stuff they have on them.
Oh, for sure. For
Pretty cool.
sure.
That
Yeah.
roll cage was pretty strong. The thing was like a toy, just upside down in the middle
Oh
of it.
yeah. I mean, she was having a hard time getting in there because her like safety device she was hanging from it. So the guy had to come like kind of push her up and unhook it. But
Right.
other than that, no damage to the driver or the passenger in that. Just
Pretty fast section where they crashed,
yeah.
barreling through those S's. Didn't the coach? She was being coached by someone, right?
Yeah, I actually walked up to ask if she was okay, and I heard her coach say, "See, that's the same thing that happened to us at Thermal." And I was like, "You mean you let her drive something and she did the exact same thing at another track recently? What the hell, man?"
But it's only a $500,000 car. It's nothing to a
Yeah.
crazy rich Asian.
Wow. I mean, yeah, $500,000 car, man. It's not something you see every day, a Ferrari upside down. That's really something, you know. Um, yeah, but it's talking to the coach guy. It sounds like their steering wheel angle is like our lean angle, right? And so basically, she had a whole bunch of steering wheel angle and matted the thing, and it came around on
Spun
her.
around backwards on her.
Yep. Instead of high siding like what happens to us, she ends up backwards and into the
Well,
tires.
she did high side. She was upside down.
Right. Well, yeah. Well, yeah. She didn't do the
How
full.
the heck did she get upside down? She hit the wall and then it flipped over?
Yeah, she dragged on the tires for a little bit, kind of at an angle, and the thing, I guess it caught and flipped the car over.
The same thing happened to us a few tests back too. Like Porsche went against that same wall, right?
That's
Same
right.
exact
But
spot.
farther back, like she made it down way farther than that Porsche did.
Yeah.
So she
Crazy.
was going, I think, quite a bit quicker. Plus, the grass was wet, so it's like she accelerated, into that. So,
Yeah, that's why we try to stay off it. But anyway, it was a good test. We learned a lot.
right on. Yeah, somebody saying this, Evo saying, A48 Evo saying it's usually a Mustang.
Yeah, something like that.
Jesus,
So in
dude.
case nobody knows, is like they have test days at Buttonwillow where we show up and we can share the track with cars, but we do 30 minutes on, they do 30 minutes on. And we don't really mind because the cars normally will get all the dirt off the racetrack for us with the
Right.
ground effects and this and that. They're like vacuum cleaners. But
Yeah.
until a couple of them end up, clipping the curbs and throwing rocks on the racetrack, and we have to go and wag our fingers at them and say, don't do that.
Yeah.
For the
I
most
mean,
part, they're pretty good.
the last test, actually, if you remember, Mikey, the track manager, kicked a guy out for that because he'd warned him, and he's like, "Look, man, there's motorcycles on here, and I can't keep coming out here with the blower every time you're out. So if you
Yeah.
blow shit on the track again, you're done." And he was done. He was kind of pissed too.
Well,
What are you gonna do?
we're being nice to them, and they got to be nice to us.
Right, right.
I mean, like that, they asked for our ambulance, which they didn't pay for. We paid for an ambulance, and they
Yes.
wouldn't used it, but that's all right. I mean, if the woman's bleeding out, we're not going to let her bleed out. You know, Go ahead and
Right.
have the ambulance. It'd be nice if they kicked in something.
Yeah, they should pitch in on the ambulance, man. That's
Especially if you have
fair.
a $500,000 car. Ambulance shouldn't cost you much.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Well, you know what, Richard? Good times, man. I guess I'll see you at the next test. Being your
Yeah,
timing guy.
yeah.
Oh.
Unfortunately, we're going to be trying some more cool stuff we can't talk about in the next test.
Yeah, I already got the memo that I'm not allowed to take pictures of that shit. So that's
Yeah,
whatever
there's a
that
few
is.
more things. What we had was basically prototypes. And so we're going to go one step further, what we have, and just keep plugging away. You know, there's always some little something we're missing, even though our bikes seem really, really good. There's always some way to make it just a bit faster. So we're just gonna keep plugging away.
Yeah, and you're gonna have the new. You already got the tires bathing in the new shit, right? So
Yeah, for a month. Yeah, all 20 of them.
yeah,
Got
yeah.
a whole chemical factory back here.
Oh yeah. Well, it's the old shipping container, right? It's like yeah.
Yeah, Mr. H. And so far as they called me 3 names now. He called me, what was it, a traitor at Daytona. He called me an asshole at Barber. And then he called me a cheater on Greg White, or no, on
Carruthers and Dice.
Sean Bice. Actually, I told Sean Bice, I said, hey, man, next time somebody says, oh, that guy's up to his cheating ways, you should say, I called Sean Bice out on it. I said, hey, Sean, why don't you ask him, what are you talking about? What do you know? Do you have any? You rode on that team. Do you know how they cheat? You know, give me some facts. That's what I would have said instead of letting it slide. Like, oh, okay.
Dude, they just ignored it. It was awesome. They just ignored it like
Sean told me that he was kind of caught by surprise. I could tell you what Sean said, but then I don't want to throw him under the bus.
no. But I mean, you know, they did the right thing. Both of them just ignored it like it was nothing. So, you know.
Yeah, I mean,
That's what we
all I've
should
ever
do.
called him is an idiot, and I don't think that can go contested. Really, I mean, you know, he pretty much everyone thinks he is. So I was just being factual.
Wow. Well, with that, Richard, it's been fun, man. Thank you for
All right,
sharing
man.
what you were able to share, what you're willing to share.
Yeah, next time.
uh,
You know, maybe we do something with Motospec next time where we show some geometry stuff.
Okay. Yeah, let's do that.
And how things get affected, because I think chit chatting like we're at dinner is cool, but I think some of the guys want to see some more technical stuff, some stuff that I'm more fun for me as well.
There's a few people that have been asking me for when's the nerd shit gonna happen, and that's what they're referring
Yeah,
to.
we did that whole Kitty Sue thing. I think we do like maybe something on Motospec where we show geometry of the bike and how it affects different things.
Yeah.
And that's easy screen share. We can just talk about a hypothetical bike and talk about rake and trail and all those different numbers, and you get a whole different kind of clientele instead of the guy saying, "My welds look better than yours."
I'm already getting comments saying, yeah, Chloe is saying Motospec would be great, and Knutson saying, love the tech stuff. So, yeah.
A lot of guys. I mean, when I was at like I said, the Yamaha thing, those guys really got off on the tech stuff. So, you know,
And
talk to them.
Chloe wants power management strategies would be interesting.
What's that?
Chloe wants power management strategies.
Let me think about that. Let me what we can say that's basically well known instead of what we do.
Right.
You know, because you
Basically
can't
not
give away the whole thing. People are already taking notes. We do have competitors that are actually fast.
Yeah. And you guys still want to win, so
Well, we have Marshall, so we have that. They don't have
Yeah.
Marshall.
Marshall sent me a picture from the test with his feet up on the couch with his laptop with the squiggly lines on it, man. I'm like,
I like him better when he's not there. He's such a worrywart, man. He comes out with this, like we split out. Like one of the things we did, I'm kind of getting off the rails here, trying to leave, but
Whatever.
one of the things we did was we split out. In Morelli, we have these different files called CLXs. That's the .clx, that's the extension. And so we have the ability to split out different parts of the file into another section and have them all the same project. And so you do that so you can manage the different strategies better. Like, okay, this CLX is specifically for strategies. This one's specifically for the nuts and bolts of running the bike. And this one's specifically for all the controls and sensors,
Yeah.
They're all named something different. And so we made a fuel CLX. It's just for the closed loop self-mapping stuff, auto mapping stuff, right?
Yeah.
So we export it, do our math on it. Marshall made this thing in the back end, and then fire it back in the bike, and your engine's mapped, right? And so he's like a typical nervous Nelly, Oh man, did you run on the dyno before? I go, it'll be fine. And you run on the dyno before you showed up? I go, just plug it in there, and if it goes and misfires, they'll come back in. So that's Marshall. He gets a little bit worked up about his work. Just have a little more confidence,
He
more
takes it
confidence, more
serious.
self-confidence.
Yeah, stop being such a wuss.
Yeah, just go for it.
Send it.
No pain, no gain, man.
All right, man. Well, I'm gonna let you get back to work, and I'll catch you in the test in a couple weeks.
Yeah, man. Later.
All right, later.